If you're looking to mount up those larger wheels and tires and need a solid kit to get the job done, this ReadyLift 4-inch SST suspension lift kit will be a great pick for all 2021 and newer four-wheel drive Silverado 1500s, excluding the Trail Boss and ZR2 models. Now, this kit will be a great addition to your truck if you're looking for an easy way to gain some better performance for your Silverado, whether that's more ground clearance or to fit a bigger tire if you're taking your Silverado off-road and you want some better capability when it comes to the dirt. When it comes to max tire size, ReadyLift recommends on a 20 by 9 inch wheel with 0 millimeters of offset, a 295/65 for 2019 through 2022 Silverados, which is equivalent to a 35. But for the 2023 Silverados, they recommend on the same size wheel, 20 by 9 with a 0 millimeter of offset, a 295/55, which is equivalent to a 33. Now, the 4 inches of lift here will do just that, giving you a pretty aggressive height compared to most other lifts, especially spacer lifts, if you want more than the average, especially when it comes to a defined and leveled look and an aggressive street presence. This kit will feature 4 inches of lift for the front and 3 inches for the rear, gaining that additional ground clearance and leveling out that stance if you're not necessarily in need for a lot of that rake for towing situations. Now, I would like to mention that the front strut spacers are going to measure out to 1.5 inches to 2 inches because they are on a slant. However, the suspension geometry combined with the spring compression and the preload spacers is going to achieve that 4 inches of lift in the front. Now, the rear blocks will measure out true to size at 3 inches, so you can rest assured there, just because they are mounted up onto that solid axle in the back. Now, that's going to raise the nose and the rear end, allowing you to get over obstacles a little bit easier and fit a larger tire comfortably inside that wheel well. When it comes to the construction, there are a number of different components here. Starting off with the front strut spacers, the rear lift blocks, as well as the shock extensions for the back. Those are all going to be made of a tough steel material with a black powder coat finish on top to resist any rusting on those materials. Now, the preload spacers, as well as the rear bump stop extensions, those are going to be made of a billet aluminum material, as you can see, being very durable and able to hold up for the long run, especially with all of the zinc plated steel hardware that's included out of the box. Now, the star of the show are these DOM steel tubed upper control arms with heavy duty ball joints in either arm and TCT maintenance free pivot bushings. Now, the ball joints will be angled correctly for the increase in height to maintain good drivability and reduce any excessive wear over time, as well as the ability to grease them with the Zerk fitting right on top, so you can maintenance them over time and keep an eye on them. Not to mention, again, the kit's going to come with everything that you need in order to get this installed on your truck. There is a slight modification when it comes to the upper strut studs, but otherwise, this is going to be pretty much bolt-on and hassle-free. Now, this kit will be on the more affordable side for the size of the lift kit, coming in at roughly $1,000. So relatively, it is going to be affordable, but you will be looking at roughly that $1,000 mark. Now, when shopping around for lift kits, usually the price aligns with the inclusivity of the kit. This kit is going to be right in the middle, pretty inclusive, but it's not going to include every single bell and whistle compared to those more expensive choices like complete struts or shocks or coilover setups, but will come with all the components to enhance your factory ones, which is great as far as a compromise when you're upgrading your suspension. Now, I think if you want to stick in that middle ground with a more aggressive lift height with everything that you need in a kit while not completely breaking the bank, whether your components are in good condition or you just don't want to upgrade them yet, this is going to be a great pick for that. Now, install is going to be at 3 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, and it's probably going to take you about 4 hours to get the job done with the right tools and the right setup. Now, at this point, we can head over to the shop and check out a detailed breakdown of the install and how to get this onto your Silverado at home. So that's going to wrap it up for me. Let's go ahead and jump into the install.
For this install, you will need air and electric impacts, various ratchets, various size extensions, swivel adapters, size adapters, T30 Torx bit, 8mm Allen socket, 10, 11, 17, 18, 19, 21, and 22mm sockets, 17 and 18mm swivel sockets, 36mm axle socket, 6, 14, 15, 17, 18, 21, and 22mm wrenches, a flathead screwdriver, needle nose pliers, a pry bar, a hammer, a ball joint service tool, caliper hanger tool, bungee cord, cutoff wheel, and angle grinder. Also not mentioned here is pole jack or jack and jack stands, as well as a spring compressor. What's up guys, today we're going to be installing a lift kit on our Silverado, so let's get started. So we're going to start things off on the rear end here, and we've got our 2 pole jacks underneath our differential supporting it. And the first thing we're going to do is remove our brake line bracket from our frame rail itself. And to do that, we're going to grab our 13mm socket and our ratchet to go ahead and get that off. So we'll go ahead and get our 2 mounting bolts off. Now you may need a small extension as well to get around the bottom part of this bracket. That's okay. We're just going to let this bracket hang loose for now, and that'll give us enough relief for any excess tension when we go ahead and drop our differential down. So our next step is going to be to remove our shocks from our differential. So we're going to go ahead and remove this mounting bolt here using our 21mm socket on our impact and a 21mm wrench. Then we can go ahead and relieve a little pressure on the mounting bolt itself by using our pole jack. Raise our differential a hair. We should be able to pop it right out. And you always want to do it this way. You don't want to really run it out with your impact, because then you risk damaging your threads. And we'll go ahead and set these aside because we will reuse them. So next we can remove our upper shock mounting bolt from our bracket there. And to do that, we're going to grab our 21mm socket again, along with a swivel and a long extension on our impact, because there are some things you need to get around. It's a little bit cumbersome, but if you go over your exhaust and behind your charcoal canister, you can get to it pretty easily. So now we'll go ahead and get this bolt out. Now before you take that all the way out, you do want to support your shock so it doesn't fall on you. We'll go ahead and remove our mounting bolt and remove our shock. Once you've got this one out, you can go ahead and repeat this for the other side. So next we're going to go ahead and remove our factory bump stops. And to do that, we're going to grab our 10mm socket and extension on our ratchet. Now once you've got this off on this side, you can go ahead and do the same thing for the other side. So next we're going to go ahead and remove our factory U-bolts. And to do that, we'll grab our 21mm socket on our impact. Go ahead and get these off. Now again, it is very important to have your rear end supported by a pole jack or jack and jack stands, because this is the last thing pretty much holding it on. So now once we have our nuts off of our U-bolts, go ahead and pull our support bracket off. You may need to squeeze on your U-bolts a bit to get it to come down. We'll go ahead and take that off. We'll remove our U-bolts. And the U-bolts you can do whatever you want with, but we will be reusing the factory cradle bracket. And once you have it done for this side, you can go ahead and repeat the process on the other side. So now we'll go ahead and get our lifting block into position on our bracket here on our differential. Now you do notice that this is a tapered block. You want the larger end facing towards the rear of the vehicle and the smaller end facing towards the front, and the dowel facing down into the dowel position on your differential side. So we'll go ahead, slide that into position here. Then we'll get this bolted back up. So now we can go ahead and raise our differential back up to get our lifting block into the dowel on the leaf spring side. Once you get it close to where your dowel is just about lined up, go ahead and work it back into position. Now you may need to readjust your differential a little bit here, but it should go right back in. So now that we have our block in place, we can go ahead and get our new U-bolts onto our leaf springs. We'll slide these into place just like so. Work them down into their mounting points on the leaf spring. Do the same for the rear one. Then once we have that in place, we can reinstall our cradle for our differential and get these bolted up. So now we can go ahead and get our factory cradle bracket reinstalled. Slide that up into position, just like so. And we can grab our provided hardware and get those onto our U-bolts. Again, it comes with a flat washer and a nut. It's always good to get one on each side just so everything will stay in place. And we'll go ahead and get the other ones on. Then we can go ahead and do the same thing for the other side, and we'll get these tightened down. So now we can go ahead and tighten down our U-bolt nuts using our 22mm socket on our impact. And once you have it complete for this side, you can go ahead and repeat this process for your other side. So now it's time to go ahead and reinstall our bump stops with the new provided spacers. And to get these in place, we're going to grab our provided 8mm Allen head bolts. And what we're going to do is drop the bolt through our bump stop here, and get that into place. And then we'll slide our spacer through. Just kind of hold it like that. And we're going to grab our 8mm Allen head socket along with an extension on our ratchet. And we'll go ahead and get that into place first, just because you really can't get your hands up in there to tighten this. So we'll have to do it this way. Then we'll go ahead and get this into position. And we'll start slow so we can go ahead and get our threads started. And then once that's started, we'll go ahead and tighten this down. And once you have that done on this side, you can go ahead and repeat this process for your other side. So now we can go ahead and install our provided shock extenders onto our factory shocks. So we'll go ahead and get this in place onto our top mounting point for our shock and grab our provided bolt and flat washer. Send that through. Then for the other side, we will add another flat washer as well as our provided lock nut. And we'll leave that loosely installed for now so we can go ahead and mount our shock. So now we're going to go ahead and snug our hardware down using our 22mm socket on our impact and our 22mm wrench. And you do want to make sure your extension is facing up and perpendicular to your mounting point that lines up with your shock lower mounting point bolt. So now we'll go ahead and get our shock extension into our factory mounting point for our shocks. Get that in. It'll take a couple tries to line up because this is a little bit of a stiff fit here. Then we'll go ahead and reuse our factory mounting bolt. So now we can go ahead and get our top mounting bolt tightened back down using our 21mm socket and swivel adapter along with an extension on our impact. So now that we have our top shock mounting bolts in place and tightened down, we will have to wait until we lower the vehicle onto the ground and put the wheels back on to install the lower shock mounting points. Because this is such a tall lifting block with still factory shocks, it doesn't have quite the travel to get all the way back up without lifting the truck off the lift itself, which is obviously dangerous. So once we get the wheels back on, we'll show you how to reinstall your lower factory mounts, but we're going to leave those on off for now and then go ahead and move on. So now that we have everything else in place, we can go ahead and reinstall our factory brake bracket to our frame, and we're going to reuse our factory 13mm bolts to do so. We'll get this back into place. Then we'll go ahead and use our 13mm socket and extension on our ratchet to tighten these back down. And once that's done, you always want to make sure there's no excess tension on any of your brake lines that would cause any damage to them. And once you put the truck back on the ground, obviously it will relieve a lot of this. So just make sure nothing's overly stretched and you should be good to go. So now we're going to go ahead and begin disassembling our front end. So we're going to start with our brackets here for our ABS line as well as our brake line. So we're going to grab our 10mm socket on our ratchet and remove the mounting bolts for all three of these brackets. We'll just go ahead and put this back in a couple threads, just keep track of it. And we'll go ahead and remove our front ABS bracket right here, right behind our brake rotor, as well as our brake line bracket right here. Now that we have that off, that's just going to give us enough room to not put any tension on any of our lines when we go ahead and start disassembling the rest of this. So now we're going to go ahead and disassemble and remove our brake caliper from our knuckle. It just saves weight on the knuckle when it's going to come out and makes it a lot easier to work with. So we'll go ahead and break this down and we'll hang it off to the side. So we'll go ahead and remove this retainer clip here. We'll grab our flathead screwdriver. We're just going to go ahead, going to work this up and off of our slider pin, and we'll go ahead and set that aside. Next, we'll go ahead and remove our retainer clips for our slider pins themselves. We'll grab our needle nose pliers. Just go ahead and pop these out. Set these aside. Then we'll go ahead and remove our slider pins themselves. And they should just push out. And you may again need your needle nose pliers just to get a little bit extra pull. We'll go ahead, work these out. Sometimes they get a little corroded, so you may have to just work them a little bit. And while you have them out, that might be a good time to clean them up, put some lubricant on them. Then we can go ahead and remove our brake pads, and these just slide in and slide out. Sometimes they tend to be a little bit wedged in here. So we can again grab our flathead screwdriver and hook it through our slider pin hole here. And we'll just work them out of place. Go ahead and set these aside. We'll do the same thing for the rear pad as well. So now we'll go ahead and remove our two caliper mounting bolts using our 18mm swivel socket on our impact. And go ahead and remove our caliper. So now that we have our caliper off, we'll go ahead and hang it out of the way using our caliper hanger tool. Set that right there, and that'll keep it out of the way and not under tension. So now we can go ahead and remove our rotor from our knuckle. And to do that, we're going to grab our T30 Torx bit on our ratchet. Now, if you've never removed the brakes, this little retainer screw will probably need to be removed with either an air hammer with an impact attachment or an impact driver, but ours has already been removed, so we can just pop it off with this. And we'll go ahead and pull our rotor off and set it aside. So now we can go ahead and remove our axle nut, and to do that we're going to grab a 36mm socket on our impact and go ahead and run that off. So now we can go ahead and remove the nut for our outer tie rod end, and to do that we'll grab our 21mm socket on our impact and go ahead and run that off. And once we have that off, we're actually going to run it back on a few threads just to hold it in place. And once we pop that out, So now that we've got our nut loosened up, we can go ahead and grab our ball joint service tool and go ahead and get this in place so we can pop our tie rod end out of its seat. Then we can go ahead and get our wrench on here and pop that out. So now we'll go ahead and grab our 16mm ratcheting wrench and start cranking on this thing until it pops it out. Now, one important thing, that this is going to be under pressure, so you always want to wear safety glasses and keep your face and valuable parts out of the way from anything that might pop. So we'll go ahead. So then once it pops out of its seat, we've got our ball joint tool removed. We can unscrew our nut again. Go ahead and pop our tie rod out of the knuckle. Then we'll just go ahead and throw the nut back on just to keep track of it. Next, we can go ahead and remove our sway bar end link nut using our 19mm socket on our impact. Now we can go ahead and remove our upper ball joint nut. And to do that, we'll grab our 19mm socket and swivel adapter on our impact. Again, we're going to leave this on a few threads just to catch it once we pop this out of the seat. Then we'll go ahead and grab our hammer and give this a few taps on the side of the knuckle here, and that should pop it out of the seat. One shot did it. So now we're ready to remove our 3 upper strut mounting nuts. So we'll grab our 14mm ratcheting wrench and go ahead and pop these off. So you don't actually need to remove any of this stuff around it. It is pretty pliable, it will push back. If you choose to do so, that's fine, but it's not necessary to do what you need to do here. Once you pop your first one loose, it should just line up like that. Now we're not going to take it fully off because that is going to help catch the strut on the way out, so we can support it and still have some extra help. I'll just run that off. Go ahead and get our back one. This one is a little bit tough to see, but it's basically like a triangle shape and it's directly in the back here. Once we have it loose, we'll give a little bit of support to our strut. You should be able to spin it off by hand unless your studs are corroded, which is entirely possible, but ours are in pretty good shape. Go ahead and remove that one. And while still supporting it, we'll go ahead and remove our other 2. And once that's out, we can go ahead and remove our strut. So now we'll go ahead and grab our strut and just pull it right out. So now we can go ahead and remove our upper control arm. So for that, we'll grab our 21mm socket on our ratchet and our 21mm wrench. We'll go ahead and remove our mounting bolts. We'll leave that bolt in until we get our other one out. That'll hold our tension off of our control arm. Now we'll go ahead and remove our mounting bolts. Slide this one out. Slide our rear one out. And out comes our control arm. So now that we have our factory strut out, we're going to need to go ahead and disassemble it to remove our factory top hat and install our provided spacer. So we've got it in our spring compressor here. Now some you can hook to the actual springs, but these are pretty spread out coils, so it's going to be easier to just grab the base of our strut and the top hat itself so we can relieve pressure and remove the top hat retainer nut. Go ahead and get this on here. Go ahead and compress your spring. So now we're going to go ahead and remove our retainer nut from our stud here to get our top hat and spring off. And to do that, we're going to grab our 6mm wrench for our stud and our 18mm wrench for our retainer nut. And we've got it in our spring compressor. We've got tension on the spring to relieve the pressure off of our nut. Go ahead and pop this off. Now once we've got our top hat retainer nut off, we can go ahead and relieve our tension on our spring. We'll go ahead and take our strut out of our compressor here. And we're simply going to remove our top hat. Go ahead and remove our spring. And we're going to remove our factory plastic spacer here. We're going to install our new provided preload spacer, reinstall our bump stop. We're going to reinstall our spring here. And we do still want that to line up with our original mark. And from the factory it should have orange lineup marks, so we'll go ahead and get that in position. Then we can set it back in the compressor. Go ahead and give it a little bit more room so we can reinstall our top hat. Make sure that sits back flush with our bushing up here. We'll go ahead and double check our mark at the bottom. Then we can go ahead and begin tightening it back down. Now you may find that your stud for your retainer nut is a little off center sometimes. So what we can do is grab a small socket and put that through there and help line it up and guide it back through our top hat. So now that we have our spring compressed and our top hat stud is back through, we'll go ahead and reinstall our factory nut and begin tightening that down. So now we're going to go ahead and reinstall our factory strut mounting nuts so we can mark our studs for trimming. Go ahead and get these in place. We'll go ahead and tighten those down using our 14mm wrench. So now that we have these on, we're going to go ahead and use our paint pen here to just mark a spot directly above the hardware so we know where to cut. And we're going to do that for all three. And we're going to cut within that mark to allow enough room for our top spacer. So now we've got our strut assembly in our vise, so we can go ahead and cut our studs off here. Now it is very important, if you are using a vise, never ever clamp onto your actual shock. We have our base of our spring here along with our spacer in the vise itself, so we're not squeezing on the actual chamber of the shock. So we're going to grab our cutting wheel, and you always want to wear safety glasses when cutting. And go ahead and make sure the sparks point away from you, not towards your face. Then we'll go ahead and do the same thing for the other two. So after you finish cutting, you notice we kept the nuts on that to protect any threads lower than where we need to cut. We're going to go ahead and grab our flap wheel here on our angle grinder and go ahead and clean up these burrs and make sure everything is nice and tidy before we install our spacer. So again, with this as well, safety glasses, point your sparks away from you, and just give it a quick little cleanup. So now we'll go ahead and remove our nuts using, again, our 14mm wrench. This is also a good opportunity. These nuts are going to pull out any debris or anything that was left behind in your threads from cutting and deburring. So now we can go ahead and install our top spacer. We'll get this into position here. Then we're going to install our provided 14mm flange nuts. Then we'll go ahead and tighten these down with our 14mm ratcheting wrench. So then now once you have all of this complete for this side, you can go ahead and repeat this entire process for your other side. So now we're ready to get our new upper control arm into place. So we'll go ahead and slide that into the spot where our old one was. And these tend to be a little bit tight going in for the first time. It's going to take some wiggling. Once you get it in, you'll grab your supplied 22mm bolts and flat washers. Go ahead and run those through your mounting points. We'll go ahead and run our other one through here. Now this one we're going to have to pull back out a little bit to get our nut on, but we'll go ahead and set that all the way in now so it'll hold it in place. Then we'll go ahead and grab our supplied laser etch fender washers. Slide those onto our bolts here. Like I said, you'll have to pull this one back to get your hardware on. Do that like so. Then we'll go ahead and grab our flat washer and 22mm lock nut. Go ahead and get that on. So we have that one on, we'll get our other one on. Now this side is, again, a little bit trickier just because of the tight quarters. So now we'll go ahead and grab our 22mm wrench and our 22mm socket on our ratchet. We'll go ahead and tighten these down. And we'll do the same thing for the other side. So now we can go ahead and get our strut reinstalled. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and get our top into place first. Lined up. Now you may need to push down on your lower control arm a good bit. This is why it's very important to have your axle nut off so you don't overstress your axle trying to get this in here. So now that we have our strut in place, we can go ahead and grab our supplied 14mm flange nuts and get those loosely installed onto our strut mount. Now we're going to leave those loose for now so we can get our bottom strut mount in place. Next we can go ahead and get our lower strut mount in place using our supplied 17mm bolts and flat washers and 18mm lock nuts. So we'll work our first one into place here. We'll get our second one started. We'll go ahead and get these through. Now once we have our hardware through, we can go ahead and grab our flat washers and 18mm lock nuts and get those installed onto the bottom side. We'll go ahead and get these on. And then we'll go ahead and get them tightened down. So now we can go ahead and grab our 17mm wrench and our 18mm socket on our impact and tighten down these bolts. Now that we have our lower mount tightened up, we're going to go ahead and tighten down our upper strut mounting nuts here using our 14mm wrench. Now we can go ahead and get our new control arm's upper ball joint into our knuckle. Go ahead and get that into place. Line it up. Sometimes you need a pry bar to get this down, but ours went pretty smooth. Hold that into position there. We'll go ahead and install our provided nut. Now we can go ahead and tighten this down using our 18mm socket and swivel adapter on our impact. So next we can go ahead and get our outer tie rod back into place on the knuckle. And we'll reinstall our factory nut here. Now we can go ahead and tighten this back up using our 21mm socket on our impact. So now we can go ahead and reinstall our axle nut. Get this back on our axle. We'll grab our 36mm socket on our impact to go ahead and tighten this back down. And again, you always want to refer to your manufacturer's specific torque spec for any hardware you're tightening down. Next, we can go ahead and reinstall our brake rotor. And we'll go ahead and reinstall our retainer screw to hold our rotor in place. And we'll grab our T30 Torx bit on our ratchet to tighten that down. Now we can go ahead and reinstall our brake caliper and go ahead and reinstall our factory 18mm bolts. Next, we can go ahead and tighten these down using our 18mm socket on our ratchet. Now we'll go ahead and reinstall our brake pads, and these just slide right back into place. Get our front one back in and lined up with our slider pin holes. And we'll do the same for our rear pad. So now that we have our pads in place, we'll go ahead and reinsert our slider pins. Next, we'll use our needle nose pliers to reinsert our retainer pins for our sliders. So now we'll go ahead and reinstall our main retainer bracket here. So we'll push in on these little tabs to get them inside of our pad. Hook that around the top. Get these seated in the middle. Do the same thing up here. Go ahead and clip that over. Now we can go ahead and get our ABS line bracket here onto our upper control arm on the stud here, and grab our flat washer and provided lock nut. Go ahead and get that on. Okay. Then we'll go ahead and get the rest of our brackets on. Now we can go ahead and get the rest of our brackets reinstalled on our knuckle. We'll start with this one here. Get it back into its retainer point. Reinstall the 10mm bolt holding it in, and our brake line bracket as well. Same thing, the factory 10mm bolt goes right back in, and you should have your 10mm bolt holding your back one in. Ours has left us from previous modifications, but factory should have that. Now we'll go ahead and tighten down the brackets on our knuckle using our 10mm socket on our ratchet. Then for our upper control arm lock nut, we'll use our 11mm socket on our ratchet. So as with the rear shock lower mounts, we're going to go ahead and leave our sway bar end link mounts off until we lower the vehicle onto the ground. We're going to use the weight of the vehicle to bring our suspension up to go ahead and reconnect our end links to our lower control arms. So now once you've completed this process for this side, you can go ahead and repeat these same steps on the other side. So now that we have the wheels back on, we have the vehicle lowered down enough to get our lower shock mounts in place and go ahead and bolt them back up. So we're going to go ahead under the truck right now and get our factory hardware back into place. So now we'll get our shock back into place here and reinstall our factory mounting bolt. Then we'll reinstall our factory nut. Then we'll go ahead and get ready to tighten this down. So now we'll go ahead and grab our 21mm socket on our impact and our 21mm wrench and tighten this down. Then we'll go ahead and do the same thing for the other side. So now that we have the front of the vehicle lowered down, we have our sway bar end links lined back up into our lower control arms. We'll go ahead and reinstall our factory 19mm nut onto our end link. Now, a crucial thing is to make sure both of these are lined up and through the control arms before you tighten them down, because you're not going to be able to really move the other side once this is tight. And so we'll grab our 19mm socket on our impact and tighten this back down. Then once you've got that done, you can go ahead and repeat this step for the other side. So now once you've got everything complete on this lift kit install, it is very important for you to take your truck to your local alignment shop and have a 4-wheel alignment done, just to make sure everything is in spec where you need it, as it is always recommended after installing new suspension parts. Alrighty guys, that about wraps up our review and install of our ReadyLift 4-inch SST suspension lift kit for your 19 to current 4-wheel drive Silverado 1500, excluding the Trail Boss and ZR2 models. Thanks for watching, and as always, for everything Silverado, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.